Good afternoon, students. In the last lecture, we have discussed about the syllabus part, and then we have started with the introduction of the C programming, right? So we have discussed why the C programming is very important nowadays, right? How it plays an important role in software development, and it can be useful for system software as well as application software, right? And these are the history of C language, right? So before C, BCPL was introduced into the market in 1966, and he was the founder, Martin Richards. Then Ken Thompson introduced B language in 1969. Then after that, uh, Dennis Ritchie introduced C programming in 1972 and Bell Labs, right? Then we have see what is computer, then how the data is stored in a computer, that is in terms of zeros and ones, right? Then the different extension for different files, then what is meant by software, and these are the two places, these are the two kind of software which can be developed using C programming language. Okay, and whatever file we get, that is exe file, that is executable file, is nothing but our software. So set of instruction is called as a program. Okay, and set of program is called as what? Software. So software can be a single program or more than one program. Active state of a program is called as a process. Then we have seen uh, operating system plays important role. So it is an interface between the user and the machine, because we cannot directly interact with the computer, right? Because it is a machine. So we need some interface to interact with the computer. So operating system provide that interface, and we have various operating system available. So DOS was the very older operating system. So currently we are using Windows, Linux, Ubuntu. So these are some of the famous operating system available in the market. Then the role of operating system is the process management, memory management, and file management. Okay, so we have seen up to this. Then we have started with the execution of the program, right? So whenever we write a program using C programming language, right? So we write that program with some code, right? And we compile that program, right? So after compilation, we run that program. So after running that program, we get the .exe file, that is executable file. Okay, so that executable file will contain zeros and ones. Okay, like this. Okay, so we have different components of the computer system here. We have hard disk, where we can store the data permanently. RAM. Okay, so this is the place where we can store the data temporarily. Okay, because once your power is off, the data will gone. And this is the processor part, right? So the processor will consist of three units: MU, CU, and ALU. So we'll see the flow. Okay, so as I told you that we have .exe file as a software, right? We install that .exe file. So we'll double click on that software, that .exe file, and we run that software, right? So it will contain zeros and ones, as you can see at the bottom. Okay, so that zeros and ones will be stored here in the hard disk, right? We stored it, and then we double click on it. Suppose I want to store VLC software, right? So I will have the file vlc.exe. Then I will double click on that file. Okay, so that file will contain zeros and ones. But when after storing that file in a hard disk, okay, so we take that file, we store it in a hard disk, right? We double click on it. Okay, so when we double click on it, then copy of that file will be stored in a RAM, as you can see here. Okay, that copy will come in a RAM. Okay, but the advantage, what is the difference between RAM and a hard disk? This file will be permanently stored here, right? But in a RAM, once the power is off, the data will gone. Okay, so whenever you will run that program, a copy of it will go in a RAM. Okay, as you can see here, the file moves after double clicking and running that software. The copy of it will come in a RAM. Okay, then we have processor, which contains MU, CU, and ALU. Okay, now that file will come in a memory unit. Okay, so memory unit is nothing but a set of register. Okay, what is register? Register is very a small unit of storing the data in a processor. Okay, so the capacity of register is very small in terms of KB, we can say, not even MB, KB. Okay, but the advantage of register is what? Faster processing. Okay, processing will be faster when the data goes to register. Okay, so memory unit consists of a set of register which processes the data very faster. Okay, but the disadvantage of register is what? Having very small memory. Okay, because RAM and hard disk is having more memory, but it is slower as compared to your register. Okay, so your memory unit, that is MU, consists of a set of register. Then the next part is a control unit. Okay, so whatever the data was there in memory unit, it was in a encoded form. Okay, the data was encoded. Means what? Suppose if you want to encrypt the data, if you want to make that data secured, then it encode that data. Okay, so the data in a memory unit was in an encoded form. It should be decoded by someone, then only we can read it. Okay, suppose if I have written the message hello world. Okay, and that message will go in terms of zeros and one in a memory unit, right? So in memory unit, it will convert or it will encode that message, means it will convert in some other form. Then it will pass that message to the control unit. Now what is the role of control unit? In order to read that message properly, that circuit that reads the instruction and decode it. Okay, because decoding, after decoding only we will able to see that message properly, and we will able to read it. Okay, so that is the role of control unit. So whatever the circuit present in that control unit, it will decode that message from the memory unit. Okay, and after that, that message will be forwarded to arithmetic and logic unit, ALU, arithmetic and logic. Here the mathematical operation will take place. Okay, so it is responsible for all arithmetic and logical calculation. Okay, so this is the execution of the program anti-difference chapter. I'll repeat. So if you have a software that is .exe file, we double click on it, that copy will go in a hard disk, right? Because we save that file in a hard disk. Okay, so we'll double click on it, so copy of it will go in a RAM. Okay, from RAM, that copy goes to the processor consists of the three parts: memory unit, control unit, and then arithmetic and logic unit, right? Memory unit consists of a set of register which is responsible for the faster processing of the data. Okay, then it encodes the data along with that. Then it forward that data to the control unit. Now the responsibility of the control unit is what? To decode that data, or what are the instruction forwarded by the memory unit. And after that, after decoding the instruction, it forwarded that instruction to the arithmetic and logic unit. Okay, so here the mathematical and logical operation will take place. So this is the execution of a program in your system. Okay, but you will not be able to see it. Okay, because you will just run type that program and you will run that program. Okay, but you should know what is happening in the background. Okay, so this is what all the steps happens in the background. Okay, so this is the execution of the program. Then software development in C. So we will write the code using C programming language, right? Don't worry about that, how to write that code and all. Okay, and we will save that file using .c, as you can see on the left hand side. Okay, you need to give some name. Suppose if I am adding two variables. Okay, suppose I want to add 10 plus 20. Okay, as I'm doing the addition operation or sum operation, I will save that file with the name sum. I can give any name that is user defined. So yeah, you can give instead of that sum, you can addition dot c as per your convenience. Okay, but you need to save that program using dot c extension. As this is the C programming language, you must save your program with dot c extension. Okay, it is mandatory. Okay, then we write the uh, just the overview. We write some header files in the C program. Okay, how we write the header file, don't worry about that. I'll tell you what is header file and all in detail. Okay, so in a C program we write the header file at the top. As you can see, hash include stdio dot h, that is called as the header file. Then after that we start with the void main, and in curly braces we write our logic for our program. Okay, this is our C program flow. Okay, don't worry about that. Hash include, what is hash include and all. Okay, we'll see step by step. Okay, but see here, the writing that header files is not mandatory, but it is good practice to write a header file. Okay, when we will see the function module at that time, I will tell you in detail why I was telling you that header files are not mandatory. Without header file, I will show you the demonstration without header files also. Okay, so I will be able to run my program without using header file. Okay, so in that case, you can directly start with the void main function, but it is a good practice. Okay, to write the header file. But because if somebody asks you whether the header files are mandatory, in that case you must tell them it's not a mandatory. Without header file also we can run the program, but it is a good practice to write a header file at the top of our program. Why? We'll see in detail when we'll see the function module. Okay, the next part is the processor. So we'll see, because we will use, suppose if you are using the Turbo C IDE, okay, it will use some software in the background. So the first software will be a preprocessor. Okay, we'll see three softwares here, which will be the part of Turbo C IDE, or whatever IDE you are using for the C programming. Okay, so what is the role of preprocessor? This is what happens with the help of preprocessor. So we have .c file, some .c. Okay, it goes to the processor. Okay, what is mean that the processor, that hash. Okay, our header file starts with the hash symbol, as you can see in some .c file. Our header file start with the hash symbol. That hash is called as a preprocessor unit. Okay, so the role of preprocessor software is what? When that file goes to the preprocessor, it removes the header file from the top. As you can see, header files are removed now. Okay, now the code is starting with the void main. Okay, so the preprocessor exclude or it removes the header file from your program, and it include the content of the header file in your program, because you are able to see only one line of code, hash include stdio.h. Okay, but when it goes to the preprocessor, your preprocessor will include the code present in that header file, because even though you are writing a single line hash include stdio.h, that stdio.h file will contain 100 lines of code or thousands lines of code. Okay, so preprocessor exclude that header file, and whatever the content of that header file, that is stdio.h file, will be included in your program. Now you can see header files are removed, but the content of the header files are included in the program. stdio.h is one of the header file. We have so many header files. We'll see that. Okay, so that content of that header file will be included in your program by removing that header file. Okay, this is the role of preprocessor. Next software is a compiler. Okay, so whatever code now we got after removing that header file, and content that header file will be included here. Now that code goes to the compiler. Okay, compiler is also one of the software which is a part of Turbo C IDE. What it does? compiler will convert that file, I mean the file without that header file, and the content of the header file will be included. So compiler will convert that file into .obj file, that is dot dot obj file, .obj file, that is object file. So object file will contain zeros and ones here. Okay, means it will convert that English language code into ones and zeros, because your computer cannot understand English language. Whatever you have written, hash include str.a, that is void main and all, your computer cannot understand it. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the compiler to convert that code, that is English language statement, into a zeros and ones. Okay, that is the responsibility of the compiler. Along with that, it will identify, but before that it will identify whether your code, whether your program contains any error. If your program is containing some error, then you will not get obj file. Means that .c file will not be converted into .obj if there are some errors in your program. But if your program is error free, then compiler will be able to convert your program into .obj file. Okay, so you'll get the .obj file, that is the zeros and ones containing file, if your program is error free. Okay, so responsibility of compiler is what? To convert .c file into .obj file when if your program is error free. Okay, so it will check whether your program contains error or not. If not, then .c file will be converted to .obj file. Then the next software is linker. Okay, so what is the responsibility of linker here? It links that .obj file with the library file. Okay, so it links the .obj file with the library file. Okay, so after linking, that .obj file will get converted into .exe file. Means now we will get the software. .exe means what? Executable file. So we can double click on it and we'll get the output for output. Okay, so this is the flow which will be happening in the background when you will write the code. The first responsibility goes to the preprocessor. It excludes the header file and it includes the code present in that header file in your program. Then the next responsibility of compiler, it compiles your program. So the first responsibility is to check out whether there are errors present in your program. If there are errors, rectify those errors, remove those errors. If your program is error free, then it convert that .c file into .obj file. Okay, next the responsibility of, because why we are converting that English language into zeros and ones, because your computer cannot understand directly the English language statement. It can understand only zeros and ones. Okay, so we got the .obj, that is object file. Okay, next the responsibility of the linker software comes, right? It links the .obj file with the library file. I will tell you what is the difference between the header file and library file later on. Okay, because you will not be able to understand it directly. Okay, so I'll tell you, or in case if I forgot, you just remind me after when we'll see the function module. Okay, in function module, I will tell you in detail what is header file, what is library file. Okay? So the responsibility of linker is what? To link the obj file with the library file. Okay, and it converts that obj file into a .exe file. Now .exe file is our final software. Okay, so we can double click on it and we'll execute that set of file. I will share all this PPT with you, don't worry. Okay, so let's begin our C programming now. So we have so many characters from A to Z, alphabets from A to Z. Then we have small case as well as uppercase. Then zero from numbering from 0 to 9. Then we have curly braces, then colon, then double quotes, less than, greater than, all these symbols present in our C programming. Okay. So what is identifier? So identifier can be constant, it can be variable, or it can be a keyword. These are the three types of identifier. So what do you mean by constant? Okay. So constant is an entity whose value is not going to change throughout the program execution. Okay. So its value is not going to change. It will be constant only. Okay. What do you mean by variable? Variable is an entity whose value is going to change, or it can be changed throughout the program execution. That is called as variable. And next one is a keyword. What is keyword? Keywords are nothing but predefined words. I'll tell you what are those predefined words. Okay. So these are the different things. Okay. Then so your alphabet from A to Z, then the numbering and all these symbol will form the identifier. Okay. Your identifier will form the instructions. Okay. As I told you, software is nothing but the set of instruction, or program is nothing but the set of instruction, right? So instruction will consist of, the first thing is data type declaration. So at the start, we will write the data type, what type of data you want. So that will be defined by your data type. Then input output instruction. Okay, what will be the input for your program? What will be the output for your program? Then some mathematical calculation like arithmetic instruction, and then control instruction. Okay, so all these are a part of instruction. Then it will form a program. Okay, so program will contain the identifier, it will contain the instruction, and then all these things. Okay, so your character symbols and all will form the identifier. Identifier will contain constant, variable, and keyword. Okay, it will form the instruction, and set of the instruction is called as program. And program is nothing but, or your software is nothing but a, it can be a single program or set of a program. Let's see constant. So any information that is constant, the constant, variable, and keywords. Let's see types of a constant. So we have primary constant and secondary constant. So in primary constant, we have integer constant, real constant, and character constant. And the secondary constant, we have arrays, string, pointer, union, structure, and then enumerator. So all these are a secondary constant. Okay. So whenever we see all our module, then all these things will be covered, like array, string, pointers, union. So these are the different modules of our C programming language. Okay, let's start with primary constant. So first one is integer. So integer can contain your positive as well as negative, as well as zero. Okay, so that integer nothing but the full number without any fractional part. The next one is real. Real means what? The fractional numbers. Okay, as you can see here, 21.4, 3.56. These are the real constant. It can contain negative also, negative numbers also. Then next one is the character constant. Okay, so A with single quote is called as what? Character, single character. Okay, next one B, then the plus symbol. All these are characters. Two, this is also character. -3, no, this is not a character. Okay, so in red symbol, -3, 3.4, Saurav is given, right? All these are not a character, these are string. Okay, because character is what? A single entity quoted with a single quote. But here minus is a one entity, 3 is another entity, so there are two entities, so it cannot be a character, because character contains only one thing. Okay, and here for 3.4, it consists of three entities, 3, then point, and then 4. So it is called as what? String. Set of characters or group of characters is called as a string. Okay. So you cannot write it in a single quote. You need to write in a double quotes. Okay. It is called as what? Strings. Set of characters is called as what? String. Character we write in a single quote because it contains only a single entity, and string will consist of group of characters, set of characters. So we write it in a double quotes. As you can see, Bhopal. This is what? String in a double quotes, right? This is example for string because we have written it in a double quotes. Then process memory. So program consumes memory in a RAM because whenever you are installing your program, at that time that program will occupy some memory in a RAM. Okay. So what does that program consist of? It will consist of instructions as well as data. So data as well as instruction will go in a RAM. Okay. So what is meant by data? Data is nothing but the variables. Okay. So variables means what? The entity whose value is going to change throughout the program. That is called as what? Variable. Okay. And we are giving some name to the variable. Why? Because we don't know where the data will be stored in a RAM at particular memory address, because our memory is having some memory addresses where the data will be stored, right? But we cannot remember those memory addresses because the memory addresses will be in a hexadecimal form. So we cannot remember it, and it will not be convenient for us to remember that hexadecimal uh, memory addresses. So instead of that, what we do, we give the name, like variable name, like ABC, instead of those memory address. Remembering those memory addresses, which consist of a hexadecimal numbers. Okay, so now ABC will be convenient for us, right? That's why we are using the variable. Okay, so we are giving some name to the variable like A, B, or C, anything you can give. Variable is a user-defined entity. You can give any name as per your convenient. Okay, but why we use variable? Because remembering the memory addresses is not convenient for us. It will be very hectic, right? And we don't know at what memory address the data will be stored because it will be allocated by your operating system randomly. So it is better to use some name like ABC, that is variable name. Okay, so the data which will consist of different variables and the instruction will be stored in a RAM. So variables are the name of memory location, as I told you, that is memory addresses, right? Where we store the data. What are the data? Because the main aim of programming is what? To take the data, to process the data, and then get some output from that data, right? So the data will be stored in a variable at particular memory address. Okay. So as a programmer, we will access that data using variable name, like using ABC. Okay. But the internal operation will be done by your computer using those memory addresses. Okay, but we don't need to bother about those memory addresses. As a programmer, we will use ABC. Suppose A is having 10 value, B is having 20 value, and C is having. So I want to add A and B. Okay, so I will just add A plus B, and that value I will store in a C. Okay, but what happens in a background, we don't know that. It will be taken care by the computer system. Okay, so whatever data we store, that data will be stored in a variable, and we are giving some name to the variable, that is user defined. So variable name is any combination of alphabet. So there are some rules for giving the name to the variable. Okay, so variable name is any combination alphabet. So it can be a capital alphabet or it can be small case, doesn't matter. Then it can be a digit and it can be a underscore. So combination of all this, combination of alphabet, digit and underscore. Then a valid variable name cannot start with digit. Remember this point. This is very important. You cannot write variable name which starts with a digit. Like you cannot write 1A, 1, because 1 is digit. You cannot start with digit. That is the rule which is defined for the C programming. You can write A1 because you are starting with the character, or you can say the alphabet A, and after that you are writing 1. Okay, so later on, after character, after alphabet, you can write the digit, but you cannot start with the digit. Remember, a variable, a valid variable name cannot start with the digit. Then one more thing, variable name cannot be a keyword. Okay, there are some keyword defined for C programming. Actually, there are 32 keywords for the C programming. So keyword cannot be a variable name. Don't use keyword as a variable name. We'll see what is keyword. So what is identifier? Then what are the predefined words and then reserved words? So there are 32 keyword in C programming language. Okay. Identifier can be anything, as I told you that it can be variable, it can be constant or anything. Okay. By which we can identify the things. Then there are 32 keywords in C programming language. Okay. So these are the list of the keywords. So we have auto, then double, then sign, unsigned, break, default, if, size of, void, case, enum, end, static, volatile, character, else, long, struct, while, continue, extend, register, switch, const, for, return, type break, do, float, short, All these are keywords. All the keyword should be written in a small case. All these are a predefined word. So you have to write as it is without any change. Okay, because your compiler will not be able to understand if you are not writing the all these keyword as it is. Okay, so we'll see all these keywords. You cannot remember the keyword at the same time because all these keyword will be covered when we will complete our C programming. Okay, so just remember that keywords are the reserved word, or you can call it as a predefined words whose meaning is already defined to the compiler. So meaning of all these keywords are already defined to the compiler. Then the instruction. So program statements are called as a instruction. Instructions are nothing but the commands through which we can communicate with the computer, because the computer cannot understand directly. So we need to give some commands to the computer. That is called as instruction. Okay. So type of instruction, data type declaration instruction, the input output, then arithmetic, and then control instructions. So these are some basic data types. Integer, that is full numbers like 10, 20, 100, 1000, like that. So it can include positive as well as negative. Then we have seen what is meant by character. Character is nothing but a single entity uh, enclosed in a single quote. Then we have floating numbers, right? Floating means what? Decimal point, like 1.5, 2.5, or anything. Okay. Then double. Double is also, it will hold the floating point, float as well as double. What is it? But what is the difference? Float will occupy 4 bytes of memory, but double will occupy 8 bytes of memory. Remember, your integer will take either 2 bytes of memory or 4 bytes. It depends on the compiler. Okay, so generally it takes 2 bytes of memory. Okay, but in for some of the compiler it takes 4 bytes. Okay, so if somebody asks you what is the memory occupied by the integer, then in that case you should tell them 2 bytes. Then character take 1 byte of memory. Okay, then float take 4 bytes of memory, then double take 8 bytes of memory. Double means what? Floats double is double. Okay, and there is some range defined for each and every data type. Okay, so double will hold more memory, that is 8 bytes of memory. We'll see all these data types in detail. Then we have void. Okay, so void does not take any memory, not even zero. Okay, so all these are a primitive data type. Okay, actually all these are keywords. Okay, in which we have some data types also indicated by red. Okay, so character is data type, float is data type, double is data type, integer data type, then void is also data type. All these are data types. Okay, which are nothing but the keywords, predefined words. So all these are primitive data types. Okay, actually there are so the list is big for the data types, but for the basic understanding, you need to remember what is meant by integer. You need to remember what is meant by float, what is meant by double, what is meant by character, and then void. Void does not take any memory, not even zero. It does not return any value. That is the advantage of void. Okay, and we have some basic data types like integer, which take 2 bytes of memory, character which take 1 byte of memory, float take 4 bytes of memory, and double take 8 bytes of memory. Okay, so this was regarding the data types. Okay, I will show you what are the different ranges for the data types. You search in a Google, then you can see character take 1 bytes of memory for 32 bit size. Then short, so that is short is also kind of a integer which take 2 bytes of memory. Okay, integer takes 4 bytes of memory. In some of the case it takes 2 bytes only. Okay, and range. Okay, as you can see here, so we have so many data types available. A signed character which take 1 byte of memory, and this is the value range. Okay, you can store value between minus 128 to 127. Okay, so this is the minimum range and this is the maximum range. Okay, only these values are supported by the signed character. Okay, if your value is more than that, then go for integer. Integer take either take 2 bytes or 4 bytes of memory, as I told you previously, right? It depends on the compiler. And this is the range of the values supported by the integer data type. Then we have unsigned integer. Okay, so here integer will support only, it support positive as well as negative values, but here unsigned will support only positive values. Okay, it will not support negative values, so it takes 2 bytes or 4 bytes. So there are so many data types available. Okay, so it depends on your requirement, you can use it. So these are the range of the values which is supported by this data type. Okay, you cannot store the value beyond this range. Minimum start with this, and this will be the maximum supported by this integer data type. Then the next one, which is also kind of a integer only. Okay, so this integer, unsigned integer, this is short. So this is also kind of integer which takes 2 bytes of memory, and this is the minimum value supported by short, and this is the maximum value supported by the short. Okay, you cannot store value beyond this in a short data type. Okay, So if you know the value which you are going to store in advance, then depends on that you can select the data type. Okay. Why you need to select the data type? Because some of the data type takes less memory. As you can see here, it short take only 2 bytes of memory. And if you know that your value will not go beyond this 32,767, in that case you can go for short, no problem, because it will occupy only 2 bytes. Okay. And if you know that your value will not go beyond this range, and still if you use the integer data type, in that case it will either occupy 2 bytes or 4 bytes. It depends on the compiler. If suppose that compiler is taking 2 bytes of 4 bytes of memory, then it will be a wastage of memory, right? Because this range, this maximum value will be stored by short also in 2 bytes. Okay, and in that case, if you are using the integer, then you are wasting 2 bytes of memory extra here, right? So these are the different data types, and these are the storage space occupied with those data types. The list is big actually. Okay, you can see the list is very big. Okay, so this is only for the integer. You can check out the range range also, right, for particular data types. So these are the floating points: float, double, and then long double. Float take 4 bytes of memory. Okay, up to 6 decimal places supported by the float. Then double takes 8 bytes of memory. Then long double takes 10 bytes of memory. Okay, so but for C programming, either we will use float or double. That is sufficient, because we know that this range is more than sufficient for us. Okay. So this is what the data type. Okay. So data type indicates what type of data we are going to store in a in a variable. Like you can see here. Suppose if I am writing integer a is equals to 10. Okay. So int is what? Data type. It will occupy some memory, like 2 bytes or 4 bytes, depends on compiler. Okay. Then this is your variable name. Okay. Because you cannot store data, you cannot directly store data in a computer, so we need a variable for that. Okay, so for that we give some variable name, so you can give any variable name, a, b, c, or as per your convenience. Okay, so int is what? A data type which indicates what type of data will be stored by the variable, right? If I want to store full numbers, then I will write integer, right? If I want to store fractional number, then I will write float f is equals to 3.5, like that. Okay, with f as a suffix. Okay, if you're writing double, then double you can give any variable. This is data type, right? Then you can give any of the variable name, like c is equals to 3.8. Okay, now what is the difference between this float and double? I already told you, it takes 4 bytes, this takes 8 bytes of memory. Okay, so any fractional number is by default double type. Okay, but if you write the suffix as f, then it will be float. Remember this point. Any fractional point is by default is of type double. So it will take 8 bytes of memory. It will take 8, 8 bytes of memory. But if you write the suffix as f, then in that case it will occupy memory only 4 bytes. And integer, as you know, it takes either 2 bytes or 4 bytes of memory. 4 bytes of memory depends on your compiler. Okay. So data type, this is the data type, right? It indicates what type of data you are going to store inside a variable. That will be indicated by your data type. Okay, so if you want to define the data type, you need to tell them data type indicates what type of data will be stored by the variable, right? Then we are storing some value because the data will be stored inside the variable. Okay. But as I told you that integer takes 2 bytes of memory, then float takes 4 bytes of memory, double takes 8 bytes of memory. But this memory will be taken by this data type or by this variable. That is the question, right? The data type, it never occupies the memory. Remember this point. Data type never occupies the memory. Who will occupy the memory? Your variable will occupy the memory. Suppose if I want to build a building, I need to do some planning for that, right? This much of space will be required and all. So that planning is nothing but your data type. Okay. So data type will indicate reserve 2 bytes of memory for me if it is int. If it is float, then it will indicate reserve 4 bytes of memory for me. If it is double, then it will indicate that reserve 8 bytes of memory. But the actual space will be taken by your variable only. These variables will occupy the memory. Okay? Data type never occupies the memory. It just instructs to the computer that reserve this much of memory for me. But the actual space will be taken by the variables. So variables take the memory. So data type never takes memory. Just instruct to the computer reserve some bytes of memory for me. Okay. So we are storing this value. Okay, we are storing this value. So this value 10 will be stored inside this variable 10. Okay, so this is what variable declaration. So this is how we declare the variable. So how we declare the variable? We start with data type. What type of data we want to store? Then we give some variable name, and then we assign some value to that variable. So this is what a variable declaration. Okay. Why we declare the variable? That is also one of the question, right? If you are not declaring the variable in your program, okay. Suppose if I am not declared a here, and if I try to write like this in my program, c is equal to a plus b. As I have not declared the variable, I will not be able to use that variable in my program. So that's why we need to declare it in advance that a is a variable which occupies either 2 bytes or 4 bytes of memory, and it is going to hold the value 10. Then only you'll be able to use that variable in your program. Otherwise, it will show error. It will show error in your program. So it is always mandatory to declare a variable at the top of your program. Otherwise, you will not be able to use that variable in your program. I will tell you the remaining things also, like constant and all, when we will see the program. Okay. As I told you, that constant is an entity whose value is not going to change throughout the program execution, right? So how to declare that constant and all, we'll see when we'll start with the actual coding. But before that, I request all the students to install the Turbo CID or any other ID, whatever you feel comfortable. Okay, because next will be our practical session. But I think starting directly practical session will not be fair. I will make your C programming foundation, your base very clear. Then we will start with the practical. Otherwise, starting with the practical will be of no use if you are not clear with the basic concept. Okay. See, I know that all these concepts are not going to give you so much marks in examination because your advanced concept means the next modules like arrays, strings, then structure, union, all these, the next part, and the last part will give you more marks in examination. But why we are learning all these things, will not be able to understand those concepts until and unless you are clear with the basic part. So remember, even though these basic concepts are not going to give you a much more marks, it will give you a very less marks in examination, but you'll not be able to understand those advanced concepts until and unless you are clear with the basic parts. So that's why I am telling you repeatedly that understand all these things very clearly. Okay, then and then only you'll be able to understand those advanced concepts. So I request all the students to write your attendance in a chat box and don't leave after giving the attendance because the lecture is not over. Okay, so next is our flow chart. I'll just give the introduction to the flow chart and we'll continue in the next session. So flowchart is a type of a diagram that represents an algorithm or the process. Okay, so you can convert your algorithm into a flowchart, or flowchart can be converted into algorithm very easily. Okay, so just for drawing the flowchart, you need to remember some symbols. What are the symbols we need to use for what purpose? Okay, so symbol with its purpose. You need to remember, in order to understand the flowchart. Okay, so flowchart is a type of a diagram that represents an algorithm or the process. So there are 6 basic symbols commonly used in a flowchart. So you have to remember all these symbols. Okay? Then only you will be uh, able to draw the flowchart correctly. So these are the different symbols. Terminal. So for that we use this diagram. Remember these symbols. For input output we use parallelogram. Then for processing kind of things we use what? Rectangle. Then we use diamond for decision making. Then connector. Actually we are not uh, using this connector kind of things here. Then we have control flow that will be indicated by the arrows. Okay, so all these are a symbol you need to remember and it with its purpose. Okay. So if you are taking the input for your program or if you are displaying the output, for that we use parallelogram. For starting the flowchart, we are using the terminal. Okay, start as well as for stop. The first symbol. The next symbol is for input or output. We use parallelogram for that. Okay. If you are taking some input in a program, use parallelogram. If you want to display something, then use parallelogram. Then you have rectangle for processing kind of things. If you want to do some mathematical operation or any kind of operation, in that case we use the rectangle. Then we have diamond for decision making, right? Either yes or no. For that we use diamond. And then for control flow, you are using the arrows. So there are some rules for the flowchart. So flowchart is generally drawn from top to bottom. All boxes of a flowchart must be connected with arrow. All flowchart start with a terminal or the process symbol. This one, the first one, terminal, right? Start and stop. We use this terminal symbol. Then decision symbol have two exit points. One for yes, that is true, and another for no, that is false. So this diamond we use for the decision making, either true or false or yes or no kind of thing. Okay? So this is the example for addition of two numbers, that is 10 and 20. Okay. On the left hand side we have given the algorithm. What is in the algorithm? Algorithm is nothing but a set of instruction, or the can say the coding can be written in a mathematical steps. That is nothing but our algorithm. Okay. So if you want to draw the flowchart, you can draw like this. For start and stop, you can use this terminal symbol. Okay. Then for processing kind of things, we have this symbol process, a rectangle, right? If you want to store something, this is also a processing kind of things, right? You are storing that zero in a sum variable. This is assignment operator. Remember, this single equal is nothing but the assign. We are assigning this zero value to the sum variable. Okay, this is also processing kind of thing. Need to put in a rectangle. Next one, we need to take some input like enter 10 and 20 values, because our task is what, to add 10 and 20. So we need to give input from your computer. So enter 10 and 20. Then some we will add 10 with 20 and will store in a sum variable. Okay. As we are taking the enter 10 and 20, that is nothing but the input which we are taking from the computer or keyboard, right? So for input output, which symbol we use? This one, parallelogram, input output, right? That's why I use parallelogram for the input output. We are taking the input here, right? Again, we are doing the processing. We are adding the 10 with 20, and then we are assigning 10 plus 20, that is 30, to the sum. Now sum will contain value 30. Okay. So for this, again we use the rectangle, and then print. We are printing the sum. So it will print what? 30. Okay. So this is also for input, and for output we use what? Parallelogram. For taking the input 10 20, we use parallelogram. For displaying the output, again we need to use parallelogram. Okay. And this is the flowchart for this, adding this 10 and 20, right? Algorithm you can write the same thing, you can write in English statement, that is nothing but your algorithm. Algorithm in simple English. Initialize some variable by 0. Okay, why we initialize the variable by 0? Otherwise, your computer will assign some garbage value, unnecessary value to the some variable. Unnecessary, like it can be negative value or positive value. Okay, that's why we are initializing the variable with 0 value. That's why we are assigning the 0 value to the variable. Then enter the number. Enter the number, that is enter 10 and 20. Okay. Also, the flowchart steps we are just writing in a simple English language, that is nothing but your algorithm. Then add them and store the result in sum, that is the processing kind of thing. And then print sum, that is output. Okay. Okay. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining today's session. Now all of you can leave the session. I hope all of you understood the session. Please give the feedback whether you understood today's session or not. Please give the feedback in the chat box whether you understood today's session or not. Can somebody acknowledge me whether you understood or not?
So can we leave the group?
Yes, all of you can leave.